In a dazzling whirlwind of wealth and celebration, a black single mother's courage steals the heart of a millionaire when she dives into chaos to save his mother from drowning at a lavish wedding reception, proving that love and heroism know no bounds. Oh, my beloved, radiant story family, you can't imagine how my heart swells with warmth just knowing you're here with me today. Welcome to Mr. Paul Stories, where our spirits dance and connect through the timeless wonder of storytelling. Before we slip into today's captivating tale, let's pause for a tender moment, joining hearts in a heartfelt prayer. May our souls overflow with deep love. May our spirits soar with boundless hope and awe. And may a gentle flood of blessings cradle us in joy and serenity. I pray this story weaves us closer, ignites our dreams, and wraps us in the magic of togetherness. Amen. Now, my dearest friends, let's snuggle in, let the world fade away, and dive hand in heart into this beautiful new story, ready for all the wonder ahead. David Castellano straightened his platinum cufflinks for the third time, his reflection staring back from the floor-to-ceiling windows of the bridal suite. Beyond the glass, 300 guests mingled on the manicured grounds of the Rosewood estate, their laughter floating up like expensive perfume. Everything was perfect. The imported white roses, the crystal fountain centerpiece, the string quartet playing softly near the champagne tower. Oh, why did his chest feel like it was caving in? "You look like you're about to throw up," his best man, Richard, said from the leather armchair, scrolling through his phone. "Pre-wedding jitters are normal, man. Victoria's a catch." David's jaw tightened. Victoria Whitmore was indeed a catch, if you were fishing for a merger disguised as a marriage. Beautiful, connected, and about as warm as the ice sculpture currently melting on the reception table. Their engagement had been more business transaction than love story, orchestrated by families who measured compatibility in stock portfolios, rather than heartbeats. "She's perfect," David replied automatically, the words tasting like ash. At 34, he'd built an empire in tech startups, but somehow forgot to build a life worth living. The antique clock chimed 4 times. In 2 hours, he'd promised to love, honor, and cherish a woman who'd never once asked about his dreams, his fears, or what kept him awake at night. She knew his net worth down to the penny, though. "Time to go make you an honest man," Richard grinned, standing. "Or at least a married one." 2 floors below, Amara Johnson tied her catering apron with practiced efficiency, her dark hands steady despite the exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. The black uniform was borrowed, like everything else in her life lately. Borrowed time, borrowed hope, borrowed dreams of something better. "Table 12 needs more champagne," Sandra, the head caterer, barked. "And smile, girl. These people tip better when you look happy." Amara nodded, lifting the heavy tray with the strength that came from years of doing whatever it took to survive. At 29, she'd learned that happiness was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not when her 6-year-old daughter Maya needed new school shoes. Not when the rent was due in 3 days, and definitely not when she was working a wedding that cost more than she'd make in 5 years. But as she walked through the opulent reception hall, watching couples dance and laugh with the carelessness that came from never wondering where the next meal would come from, something stirred in her chest. Not bitterness, she'd buried that long ago. Something softer. Longing. Maybe that she believed in fairy tales once. Before Marcus left her pregnant and alone. Before her mother's disappointed sighs and her father's cold silence. Before the world taught her that single black mothers were invisible unless they were serving someone else's happiness. "Excuse me." An elderly woman with kind eyes and pearls touched her arm gently. "Could you help me find the powder room?" "Of course, ma'am." Amara's voice carried the warmth she saved for people who saw her as human. "Right this way." The woman, Mrs. Castellano, she'd heard someone call her, walked with the grace of someone who'd never doubted her place in the world, yet something in her eyes seemed almost sad. Beautiful wedding, Mrs. Castellano said as they walked. Yes, ma'am. Your son seems very happy. The lie came easily. Amara had watched the groom during the ceremony, seen the way his smile never quite reached his eyes. Mrs. Castellano paused, studying Amara with surprising intensity. Do you believe in love, dear? The question caught her off guard. I believe in hope, ma'am. Hope. The older woman smiled, but it was tinged with something Amara couldn't name. Yes, I suppose that's all any of us have, isn't it? As they reached the powder room, Amara felt an unexpected kinship with this elegant stranger. Both of them, it seemed, were hoping for something more than what they had. What do you think draws people from different worlds together? Is it fate or something deeper? The sun was beginning to set, casting golden light across the fountain where soon everything would change. As twilight draped the Rosewood estate in golden hues, the wedding reception shimmered with opulence. White roses cascading over tables, crystal fountains catching the fading light, laughter rising like clinking champagne glasses. David Castellano, the groom, stood at the edge of this glittering world, his platinum cufflinks gleaming, but his heart heavy. At 34, he'd built a tech empire, yet his marriage to Victoria Whitmore felt like a contract, not a vow. His smile a mask for a soul adrift in a sea of expectations. Across the manicured lawn, Amara Johnson moved with quiet grace, her borrowed catering uniform a stark contrast to the guests' designer gowns. A single mother of 29, she carried trays and dreams, her dark eyes reflecting the weight of survival for her 6-year-old daughter, Maya, whose school shoes were wearing thin. The evening's warmth shattered with a collective gasp that silenced the string quartet. Mrs. Castellano, David's mother, stood by the fountain, her pearls aglow, her expression distant as if lost in a memory of youth. Suddenly, she swayed, her hand clutching her chest, and tumbled backward into the water with a chilling splash, her elegant form disappearing beneath the surface. The crowd froze, their murmurs hollow, their elegance useless against the crisis. Unfolding, Amara, balancing a tray of champagne flutes, felt her heart lurch. She saw Mrs. Castellano's kind eyes from earlier, eyes that had met hers with warmth, asking about love and hope, seeing her as more than a server. Diving in could cost her job, her only lifeline for Maya's future, the rent due in days. But instinct overruled fear, a surge of courage born from years of doing whatever it took to survive. She dropped the tray, glass shattering on the stone path, the sound sharp against the crowd's gasps. Kicking off her shoes, she sprinted to the fountain and dove into the cold depths, her uniform dragging like chains, the water stinging her skin. Her arms burned as she swam downward, her lungs screaming, until her fingers found Mrs. Castellano's limp form. With a strength forged by motherhood, she pulled the older woman upward, breaking the surface, both gasping for air. Hands, David's, his best man's, reached to haul them onto the stone edge, Amara's legs trembling but refusing to falter until Mrs. Castellano was safe. David, pushing through stunned guests, reached the fountain, his breath catching as he saw a stranger risk everything for his mother. Amara emerged, soaked and breathless, her courage a beacon in his shadowed world. Their eyes locked, a fleeting moment where time stilled, gratitude sparking something deeper, unspoken, raw. Guests whispered, some in awe, calling her a hero, others in judgment, labeling her reckless, out of place. The head caterer, Sandra, hissed threats of dismissal, her voice laced with disdain for Amara's audacity. But David's voice cut through, sharp and authoritative, insisting she stay, his storm-gray eyes holding hers with a conviction that silenced the crowd. She was a hero, he said, a word that felt foreign to Amara, who'd only done what her heart demanded. As paramedics whisked Mrs. Castellano to an ambulance, her coughs weak but alive, Amara stood alone, her wet uniform dripping, the shattered glass from her tray a symbol of her sacrifice. The job she'd lost, the stability she'd fought for, hung in the balance, yet David's defense lingered in her mind, a spark of warmth in the cold night. He glanced back as he followed the ambulance, her figure etched against the fountain, no longer invisible. The ripples stilled, but the night promised change, a collision of worlds, privilege and struggle, isolation and courage that would not be undone. A moment that would ripple through their lives forever. The reception dissolved into a cacophony of whispers, the fountain's ripples now a backdrop to a scandal that eclipsed the wedding's elegance. Amara lingered by the catering tent, her damp uniform clinging to her skin, a stark reminder of her place in this world of wealth and privilege. She'd saved a life, but the cost was steep. Her job, her stability, the school shoes Maya needed, the rent due in 3 days. Sandra's harsh words echoed in her ears. No paycheck for her stunt, her voice dripping with contempt for Amara's disruption. Guest stares pierced her, a mix of reluctant gratitude and disdain, their murmurs marking her as an outsider, her race and status a silent accusation. She felt the familiar sting of invisibility, a lesson learned long ago as a single black mother, seen only when serving others' happiness, judged when she dared to step beyond. By the ambulance, David stood torn, relief for his mother's survival warring with guilt for his hollow existence. Victoria stormed over, her wedding gown pristine but her voice sharp with indignation, her eyes flashing with fury. The press would feast on this, she fumed, his mother's near drowning at their wedding, a caterer stealing the spotlight with her reckless act. She dismissed Amara as a fame seeker, a gold digger angling for reward, her words laced with venom. That stung David's conscience. His defense was fierce, his jaw tight, his voice cutting through her tirade, but her accusations sowed doubt. Was he seeing something in Amara that wasn't there, a mirage born of his own discontent? His life, built on his father's expectations, felt like a cage tightening. Victoria's cold ambition its bars. Amara wanted to flee, to return to Maya, to the safety of their small apartment where the world's judgment couldn't reach. The weight of scrutiny, her race, her single motherhood, the whispers of reckless and out of place, pressed down, a reminder of the barriers she'd faced since Marcus left her pregnant and alone. But David approached, his gratitude raw, his presence disarming in its sincerity. He asked her name, his storm-gray eyes searching hers with an intensity that caught her off guard, as if he saw beyond her uniform, her exhaustion, her defenses. "Amara," she said, her voice hesitant, her heart torn between fear and a spark of hope she hadn't felt in years. She turned to leave, the night's chaos and the crowd's judgment pushing her away, her steps heavy with the knowledge that her sacrifice might cost Maya's future. David's voice stopped her, a plea to join him at the hospital, his mother wanting to thank her personally. The request stirred memories of Mrs. Castellano's kind eyes, their earlier talk of love and hope, a fleeting connection that felt like a lifeline in this sea of opulence. Amara paused, her breath visible in the cool air, her mind racing. Going meant stepping further into a world that didn't want her, risking more than she could afford to lose. Yet, David's sincerity, the raw edge in his voice, tugged at her heart, a reminder of the courage she'd shown at the fountain. Promising to think about it, she walked into the night, her steps uncertain, her heart a battlefield of fear and possibility, unaware that this moment had already set her on a path she couldn't turn back from, a path that would challenge every barrier she'd ever known. In the hospital's sterile waiting room, fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows over David and Amara, two strangers bound by a single act of courage that had upended their worlds. David, his tuxedo jacket discarded, tie loosened, sat with the weight of his mother's brush with death pressing against his chest, the emptiness of his marriage to Victoria a dull ache beneath it. At 34, he'd built an empire, but tonight, he felt its hollowness. His life a series of choices made for others. His late father, his social circle, a bride who valued his net worth over his heart. Amara, still in her damp catering uniform, sat across the room, her arms crossed tightly, her thoughts on Maya, waiting at home with her grandmother. She felt out of place in this pristine world, her presence drawing curious glances from nurses, a reminder that she didn't belong in spaces like this, spaces of wealth and privilege. Their conversation began tentatively, a fragile bridge built on shared vulnerability in the quiet of the waiting room. David spoke of his mother, his only anchor since his father's death, the woman who'd raised him with love but watched him build a tech empire to please a ghost. His voice cracked as he admitted his distraction, his years chasing success while missing her quiet sadness. Amara's question, why he stayed in a world that left him so empty, cut deeper than Victoria's criticisms, striking at the core of his unrest, leaving him silent, searching for an answer he didn't have. She shared her own story, her voice low, hesitant, a scholarship to become a teacher, dreams of shaping young minds, all shattered when Maya's father, Marcus, left her pregnant and alone. Her parents' disapproval, their sighs of "you threw your life away," had hardened her heart, teaching her that love was a luxury she couldn't afford, that survival demanded sacrifice. David's gentle gaze held her, a quiet acknowledgement of her strength, her resilience in the face of a world that judged her every step. Her voice trembled as she spoke of Maya, her 6-year-old daughter who deserved more than a mother, always scrambling, always exhausted. David's words, that she wasn't failing Maya, that her courage at the fountain proved her worth, stirred something long buried, a flicker of belief in herself she'd lost amid the struggle. The air between them softened, their differences, class, race, privilege, fading in the intimacy of their shared truths. The hospital's stark walls no longer a barrier, but a cocoon for their budding connection. Relief came when the doctor entered, announcing Mrs. Castellano's stability, a mild cardiac event triggered by stress, her condition no longer critical. David and Amara followed to her room, the older woman lying in a hospital bed, oxygen tubes in her nose, but her eyes bright with gratitude. She took their hands, her grip weak but firm, her voice carrying the weight of a life nearly lost. Life was too short for pretense, she said, urging them to choose truth over expectation, to live for what mattered. Her words landed like a challenge, a blessing, stirring David's heart and warming Amara's. As they left, their shoulders brushed. In the narrow corridor, the air electric with unspoken possibility, the night weaving their fates closer. The hospital's sterile hall seemed softer, the hum of machinery a quiet underscore to the shift within them, a dance between fear and hope that promised more if they could find the courage to embrace it. In the hospital cafeteria, under the harsh buzz of fluorescent lights, David and Amara sat at a corner table, styrofoam coffee cups cooling between them, the world outside fading into the early morning hours. The night's intensity had softened their edges, stripping away the masks they wore, David's polished facade of success, Amara's guarded resilience. They peeled back layers of their pasts, each word a step closer to understanding, a bridge across the chasm of their different worlds. Amara spoke first, her voice low, hesitant, as if unearthing memories long buried beneath the weight of survival. She'd once dreamed of teaching, a scholarship to college, her ticket out of a neighborhood where hope was scarce. But Marcus, her high school love, had promised forever, only to leave her pregnant at 19, his departure a betrayal that shattered her plans. Her parents' disapproval cut deeper, their sighs of "you threw your life away" echoing in her mind, teaching her that love was a trap, that single black mothers were invisible unless serving others' needs. Maya, her 6-year-old daughter, was her anchor, her reason to keep going, but the struggle, rent, bills, worn-out shoes, made Amara doubt her worth, her heart scarred by a world that judged her every step. David listened, his storm-gray eyes steady, his silence a space for her truth. Her vulnerability stirred him, and he offered his own story, his voice raw with a confession he'd rarely voiced. At 34, he'd built a tech empire, a monument to his late father's ambitions. But it brought wealth, not joy. His marriage to Victoria was a business deal, orchestrated by families who measured compatibility in stock portfolios, not heartbeats. She knew his net worth to the penny but never asked about his dreams, his fears, what kept him awake at night. Amara's courage at the fountain had woken him, he said, her selflessness a mirror to his hollow existence, a spark that made him question the life he'd built for others. Her question from earlier, why he stayed in an empty world, lingered, unanswered, but her presence now felt like the beginning of an answer, a call to something real. Their eyes met, the distance between their worlds, privilege and struggle, wealth and survival, shrinking in the cafeteria's quiet, the hum of a vending machine, the only sound. Amara's heart stirred, David's words, that she wasn't failing Maya, that her strength was enough, reaching a part of her she'd locked away. But fear surged, her past a heavy anchor. She thought of Maya, sleeping at her grandmother's, of the rent due, of the society that judged her race, her status, her audacity to hope. The connection with David, so vibrant, felt dangerous, a risk she couldn't afford. Rising abruptly, she said she had to go, her voice tight with the weight of her wounds, her steps toward the exit a retreat from possibility. David watched her leave, standing in the hospital parking lot as her figure faded toward the bus stop, her silhouette small against the pre-dawn sky. His phone buzzed, Victoria, demanding updates, but he silenced it, her world feeling further away than ever. The cafeteria's truths hung heavy, their wounds laid bare, holding the promise of healing but shadowed by fear. Amara, on the bus, stared out the window, the city's lights blurring, her heart torn between the safety of survival and the risk of trust, a choice that loomed larger with every mile, a question of whether courage could extend beyond the fountain. To reshape her life. A week later, sunlight bathed the city park in a golden glow, the air alive with the shouts of children and the scent of blooming flowers. Amara sat on a worn bench, watching Maya swing, her 6-year-old daughter's laughter a fleeting balm against the uncertainty of their future. The catering job was gone, Sandra's dismissal final despite David's defense, but his intervention had secured a severance, enough to cover rent and buy Maya new school shoes. Still, Amara's heart wrestled with doubt. Could she provide the life Maya deserved, the stability she'd fought for since Marcus left? The park's vibrancy contrasted with her inner turmoil, the weight of survival a constant companion, her dreams of teaching buried beneath years of sacrifice. Then David appeared, carrying 2 coffee cups, his presence both startling and warm, like a ray of sun breaking through clouds. He'd tracked her down through the catering company, a bold move that echoed her own courage at the fountain, a risk that spoke of his growing feelings. Amara tensed, her guard rising, but took the coffee, their fingers brushing, a spark that stirred her heart. They sat, the bench creaking under their weight, the park a canvas of life around them, children chasing kites, couples strolling, the world moving forward despite their uncertainties. David shared stories of his mother's recovery, her hospital room now bright with flowers, her gratitude for Amara's heroism a constant refrain. She'd urged him to live honestly, he said, to choose a life that matched his heart, not his father's ghost. His voice carried a quiet intensity, a man awakening to possibilities he'd long ignored. Amara opened up, her voice soft, hesitant, speaking of Maya's dreams, her love for drawing, her endless questions about stars, animals, the world beyond their small apartment. She smiled, a rare, unguarded moment, as she described Maya's latest sketch, a family with grandma, Castellano, and a man who looked like David. Their laughter came easily, their silences comfortable, a contrast to the chaos of the wedding. Night, the hospital's sterile tension. Maya ran over, clutching a dandelion, her eyes wide as she recognized David, mistaking him for a prince from her fairy tales. His warm chuckle, his gentle answer, that he was no prince, just a friend, softened Amara's guard, her heart stirring with a hope she hadn't dared feel since youth, a warmth that felt like spring itself. Yet, her past lingered like a shadow. Marcus's betrayal, the world's judgment of a single black mother, the whispers that followed her even here, in this park where she sought refuge. She wanted to lean into this connection, to believe in David's sincerity, but fear held her back, the risk of heartbreak too great, the cost to Maya too high. David sensed her hesitation, his own heart torn between his world's expectations, victorious threats, his partner's doubts, and this new, vibrant pull toward Amara, toward a life that felt real. As Maya returned to the swings, her laughter echoing, they sat closer, the coffee cooling, their shoulders brushing. The park's breeze carried the scent of grass and promise, their bond a fragile thread weaving through the spring air, a connection that promised more if they could find the courage to trust it, a question that hung between them as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across their uncertain path. In David's sleek penthouse, the city skyline glittered through floor to ceiling. Windows, a dazzling facade that belied the tension within. Victoria confronted him, her voice cold as the marble floors, her eyes flashing with accusation. The elite circles they moved in buzzed with disdain. His shift from tech mogul to nonprofit dreamer was a scandal, a betrayal of the empire he'd built, and his attention to Amara, a lowly caterer, was fodder for gossip. She called Amara a gold digger, an opportunist exploiting his wealth, her words laced with venom that echoed the whispers David had overheard at recent galas. Her threats were sharp, stray from their world, and she'd ruin his reputation, his business, his carefully curated life. David stood firm, his jaw tight, but her accusations burrowed into his doubts, the weight of societal expectation pressing down like a storm cloud over his newfound purpose. Across town, in Amara's cramped apartment, the air was heavy with another blow. Her mother, Mrs. Johnson, stood in the doorway, her face etched with worry, her hands clasped tightly, as if holding back years of disappointment. She'd heard the rumors about the wedding, the millionaire, the scandal that followed Amara's heroism. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip, some calling her brave, others whispering she'd overstepped, her audacity to connect with David a betrayal of her place. Mrs. Johnson's voice was low, heavy with the pain of her own unfulfilled dreams. Men like David didn't choose women like them, single black mothers from their world, women who knew struggle, not privilege. Her words cut deep, reopening Amara's wounds, Marcus's betrayal, her parents' disapproval, the society that judged her every step. She saw Maya sleeping nearby, her small face peaceful, her latest drawing of their family pinned to the wall, and feared the cost of dreaming too big, of believing in a love that crossed such divides that Amara's heart ached, the park's warmth now a distant memory. She'd felt hope with David, a spark of possibility, but her mother's warnings echoed her own fears, the reality of their different worlds looming like a chasm. When David called, his voice warm with the memory of their park bench, Amara's resolve faltered. She pushed him away, her words trembling, her voice tight with the fear of another heartbreak, of failing Maya by chasing a dream that might crumble. The connection they'd built, so vibrant in the sunlight, felt like a fragile glass under the world's harsh scrutiny, ready to shatter at the slightest pressure. David sat alone in his penthouse, the city lights mocking his isolation, Victoria's threats ringing in his ears. He thought of Amara's courage, her quiet strength, the way Maya's laughter had filled the park, and felt the ache of her absence. His life, once defined by boardrooms and galas, now felt empty without her, without the purpose she'd awakened. In him, Amara, tucking Maya in, her fingers brushing her daughter's curls, felt the weight of her mother's words, the divide between their worlds, class, race, expectation, looming larger than ever. She looked at Maya's drawing, David's figure alongside hers, and wondered if hope was a luxury she could afford, or a trap that would cost her everything. The night stretched on, their connection flickering like a candle in a storm, threatened by forces that thrived on keeping them apart. Yet, in their separate worlds, a spark remained, David's resolve to live honestly, Amara's courage that had saved a life. The question lingered, heavy and unanswered. Could their love, born in a moment of crisis, withstand the weight of a world determined to divide them? Or would it shatter under the pressure of judgment and fear, leaving them to rebuild alone? In Mrs. Castellano's hospital room, sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow over her recovery, a quiet miracle that mirrored the shift in David's heart. She sat propped up, her pearls resting gently against her collarbone, her eyes sharp with a mother's wisdom. She spoke to David with clarity, her voice steady despite her frailty, recounting the life she'd nearly lost and the son she'd watched live for others, his father's ghost, his social circle, Victoria's ambition. Amara's realness, her courage at the fountain, was a gift, she said, a chance for David to choose himself, to build a life that matched his heart, not the expectations that caged him. Her words cut through his doubts, igniting a resolve he hadn't felt since youth, a fire to break free from the empire he'd built for others. That evening, in the penthouse's sterile elegance, David faced Victoria, her threats hanging heavy. In the air, she warned of ruin, his reputation, his business, his place in their world, if he strayed from her, from the life they'd planned. But David's heart was elsewhere, with Amara's quiet strength, Maya's laughter, his mother's challenge. With steady calm, he ended their engagement, his voice firm, his decision a leap into an unknown life. Victoria's vow of revenge echoed as she stormed out, her heels clicking like gunfire. But David felt lighter, the cage of expectation loosening, his soul awakening to possibility, terrifying yet freeing. Across town, David stood outside Amara's apartment, the night air cool against his skin, the city's hum a distant backdrop to his racing heart. He knocked, his breath catching, and when Amara opened the door, her eyes wary, her arms crossed, he spoke without pretense. He was done living for others, he said, done with a world that measured worth in wealth, not heart. He wanted a life. With her, real, unscripted, built on the courage she'd shown at the fountain, the hope they'd found in the park. His voice trembled, raw with vulnerability, his storm-gray eyes searching hers for a sign, a chance. Amara's tears glistened, her fears spilling out. For Maya, her anchor, who needed stability. For herself, scarred by betrayal. For dreaming too big in a world that judged her race, her status, her audacity to love across divides, she thought. Of her mother's warnings, the gossip that trailed her, the article Victoria had orchestrated, branding her a gold digger. The weight of her past, Marcus's abandonment, her parents' disapproval, pressed down, urging her to retreat, to protect Maya from a world that might never accept them. But David's outstretched hand, steady and sure, offered more than words, a partnership, a shared leap into the unknown, a belief in her worth that she'd lost long ago. His sincerity, his willingness to risk his world for hers, pierced her. Defenses, a mirror to the courage she'd shown when she dove into the fountain. She hesitated, her fingers trembling, her heart a battlefield of fear and hope, but his steady gaze held her, promising a future they could build together. Amara took his hand, her grip tentative at first, then firm, a choice to trust, to believe. That love could bridge their worlds, that courage could extend beyond a single act to reshape their lives. David's heart swelled, the night air softer now, the city's lights a backdrop to their vow. They stood in her doorway, the world's judgment fading, their bond a quiet rebellion against the forces that sought to divide them. Maya, peeking from her room, saw their embrace and smiled, her small heart eased. Their choice a promise of a family forged not by expectation but by love, a leap that would carry them forward, together, into the unknown. Spring bloomed across the city, its warmth mirroring the new chapter David and Amara carved in the wake of their choice. In a city park, they sat on a checkered blanket, hands entwined, the grass soft beneath them, watching Maya swing with unbridled joy, her laughter a melody that wove their lives together. David had left his tech empire, trading boardrooms for a nonprofit that brought opportunity to communities like Amara's, its mission a testament to her resilience, her courage at the fountain a spark that ignited his purpose. At 34, he'd found meaning not in wealth but in the faces of the youth he mentored, their dreams a mirror to the ones he'd rediscovered in himself. Amara, now enrolled in night classes, chased her dream of teaching, her heart lighter. With every lesson plan she crafted, each page a step toward a future she'd once thought lost. Her confidence grew, her voice steadier, her belief in her worth rekindled by David's unwavering faith, his presence a steady anchor in her storm-tossed life. Maya, at 6, was their heart's center, her boundless energy a glue that bound their unconventional family. Her drawings, pinned to their modest home's walls, told their story. David's steady grin, Mrs. Castellano's gentle warmth, Amara's quiet strength, a family forged not by blood but by choice. She called Mrs. Castellano Grandma, her voice bright with love, her sketches a gallery of moments that defined them. Park picnics, bedtime stories, Sunday dinners filled with laughter. Mrs. Castellano, fully recovered, joined them in the park, her pearls catching the sunlight, her pride in their courage a silent blessing. Her near death at the fountain had reshaped her, too. Her gratitude for Amara a constant refrain, her love for David a call to live honestly, a legacy she saw unfolding in their blended family. The world still watched, some with judgment, others with curiosity, but David and Amara's bond held firm, a quiet defiance of the divides that once threatened to tear them apart. The gossip that trailed them, Victoria's whispers, the elite's disdain, the neighborhood's doubts, faded in the face of their truth, their love a beacon that outshone the shadows. They walked through the park, Maya skipping ahead, her dandelion crown tilting, and paused by the fountain where it all began. Its gentle ripples mirrored their journey, a moment of crisis that had sparked a connection, a courage that had grown into something enduring. David's hand tightened around Amara's, his storm-gray eyes reflecting their shared path, the risks they'd taken, the barriers they'd broken. Amara leaned against him, her heart full, her fears quieter now. She'd once believed herself unworthy, her past a chain, but David's belief, his choice to stand with her, had set her free. He, too, had changed, his hollow empire replaced by a purpose that filled his soul, a life that matched his heart. Their love, born in a moment of heroism, had grown into a testament to authenticity, a bridge across class, race, and expectation. Maya ran to them, clutching a new dandelion, her laughter bright, her eyes shining with the joy of a family she'd helped build. Mrs. Castellano smiled, her hand resting on Maya's shoulder, her presence a reminder of the night that changed. Everything that as the sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the park, David and Amara exchanged a glance, their hearts aligned, their journey a proof that love, when brave and true, could conquer all. Their family, unconventional and hard-won, was a legacy stronger than any empire, a promise that courage could reshape not just lives but worlds, a story that would ripple forward, carried by the love they'd chosen against all odds, the spring that bloomed in their hearts carried into summer, painting their modest home in vibrant hues, a sanctuary where love took root like a seedling in fertile soil. Maya's drawings adorned the walls, each a snapshot of their growing family. David's steady grin as he read her bedtime stories, Mrs. Castellano's gentle warmth during Sunday dinners, Amara's quiet strength as she balanced motherhood and dreams. David's nonprofit took shape, a beacon of opportunity for communities like Amara's, offering scholarships and mentorship to youth whose potential mirrored Maya's bright curiosity. At 34, he found purpose in their faces, their dreams a reflection of the ones he'd rediscovered, his wealth now a tool to uplift rather than define him. Amara, enrolled in night classes, pursued her teaching dream with a passion that lit her dark eyes, each textbook a step toward a future she'd once thought impossible, her confidence growing with every lecture, every late-night study session in their cozy living room. Maya, at 6, was their heart's center, her laughter, a melody that drowned out the world's noise, her sketches a chronicle of their unconventional family. She called Mrs. Castellano Grandma, her voice bright with love, her drawings capturing moments of joy. Park picnics, library visits, David teaching her to ride a bike. Mrs. Castellano, her health restored, filled their home with warmth. Her pearls a quiet symbol of the night she nearly lost, her gratitude for Amara a constant thread in their story. Their home, modest but alive, was a testament to their choice, a bridge across the divides of class and race that had once seemed insurmountable, a family forged by courage and love. Yet, old shadows crept in, unwilling to let their love grow unchallenged. Victoria, scorned by David's choice, wielded her influence like a blade, spreading whispers through elite circles, galas, boardrooms, society pages. His shift from tech mogul to nonprofit leader was a scandal, they said, a reckless fall from grace, a betrayal of the empire he'd built. In Amara's neighborhood, gossip twisted her heroism into opportunism, whispers of gold digger trailing her at the corner store, the laundromat, the school pickup where mothers averted their eyes. Her race, her status as a single mother, her audacity to love beyond her world. These were weapons in the hands of those who thrived on division, their words cutting deep, bruising her heart with memories of judgment, of Marcus's betrayal, of her parents' disapproval. A community fundraiser for the nonprofit. The community center glowed with hope, its walls lined with children's artwork, the air alive with laughter and music. David and Amara stood hand in hand, greeting families, their smiles warm but their hearts heavy with scrutiny. Children painted murals, their hands smudged with color, but eyes followed Amara, some warm with admiration for her courage, others cold with doubt, questioning her place in David's world. David spoke passionately about opportunity, his voice steady, but he felt the weight of former allies turning away, their loyalty to Victoria's narrative unshaken, their whispers echoing her threats of ruin. Amara, shaking hands with parents, saw pride in their eyes but also pity, as if her love was a gamble doomed to fail, a dream too big for a woman like her. As the evening wound down, they stole a moment by the mural, a vibrant tapestry of hope, painted by the children, their fingers laced tightly, their breath mingling in the warm air. their resolve a quiet rebellion against the shadows that sought to divide them. The fundraiser's success, scholarships funded, families inspired, was a victory, but the world's judgment loomed, a test of their love's resilience. Their bond, fragile yet unyielding, was a bridge between worlds, rooted in the truth they'd found in each other, a promise that courage could withstand even the darkest whispers, a seedling that would grow if they dared to nurture it against. The stormed AS summer deepened. The community center became a beacon of hope, its walls alive with the energy of David's nonprofit, a testament to the love that had sparked its creation. The first scholarship program launched, offering youth like Maya a chance to dream beyond their circumstances, their eyes bright with possibility as they accepted awards on a makeshift stage. Amara stood by David's side, her presence a quiet strength, her smile warm as she handed out flyers to parents, her dark eyes reflecting the pride of seeing her community uplifted. But she felt the weight of their gaze. Some admired her courage, their hands lingering on hers with gratitude. Others whispered behind cupped hands, questioning her place in David's world, their words laced with doubt. Was she a hero or an interloper, a woman who dared too much by loving across divides? Her mother, Mrs. Johnson, attended the event, her skepticism softened by Maya's joy, but still sharp, her voice low as she warned Amara that fairy tales fade when reality bites. That men like David belonged to a world that would never accept them. The words stung, echoing Amara's own fears of heartbreak, of failing Maya in a society that judged her race, her status, her audacity to hope. David, too, faced scrutiny, his tailored suit a contrast to the center's worn floors, his presence a reminder of his former life. His former business partners, loyal to Victoria's influence, met him with cold handshakes, their voices clipped as they called his nonprofit a reckless dream, a betrayal of the tech empire he'd built. Their doubts mirrored his own, the fear that he'd traded stability for a cause, and a love that might crumble under pressure, leaving him with nothing but regret. Yet, at the event, he watched Amara mentor a shy teen, her warmth coaxing the girl to share her poetry, her voice trembling but growing stronger with each word. The moment was a revelation, a mirror to Amara's courage at the fountain, her ability to see the unseen, to lift others even as she carried her own burdens. Their love wasn't just personal, he realized. It was a challenge to the divides that kept communities apart, a bridge across class and race that gave his work purpose, grounding his ideals in her reality. The center glowed with string lights, volunteers playing music as families danced, their laughter a defiance of the world's judgment. David and Amara joined them, swaying to a guitarist's melody, their hands clasped tightly, their smiles a quiet rebellion against the whispers that trailed them. Mrs. Johnson watched from the sidelines, her expression softening as Maya tugged her onto the dance floor, her small hands pulling her grandmother into the joy of the moment. The community's gaze, once heavy with doubt, felt lighter, a mix of hope and curiosity, their skepticism giving way to the possibility that love could reshape their world, too. David and Amara moved together, the music a heartbeat, their bond a testament to what courage could build when it dared to stand against division. As the night ended, families lingered, their voices warm with gratitude, their children clutching scholarship certificates, their dreams a mirror to Maya's. Amara felt her mother's hand on her shoulder, a rare gesture of pride, though her warnings lingered. David, shaking hands with supporters, felt the absence of his former allies but the presence of something greater, purpose, love, a community that saw him not as a mogul but as a man. Their love, forged in a moment of crisis, was becoming a symbol, a story that rippled through the center, inspiring others to bridge their own divides, to choose courage over fear, to believe that love could endure the gaze of a world that sought to tear it apart, that summer's warmth gave way to storms, both literal and figurative, as thunder rolled over the city, mirroring the challenges that tested David and Amara's love. Victoria's campaign escalated, her influence seeping into a glossy magazine article that branded David's nonprofit a publicity stunt, a desperate bid for redemption, and Amara a gold digger exploiting his wealth for her own gain. The words cut deep, their venom reopening Amara's wounds, Marcus's betrayal, her parents' disapproval, the society that saw her as less, her race and status a constant mark against her. She withdrew, her trust faltering, her heart heavy, with the fear that Maya would pay the price for her dreams, that loving David meant risking the stability she'd fought for. At home, Maya sensed her mother's tension, her small voice piercing the quiet as she asked if David would leave like her father had, her eyes wide with worry, her hands clutching a drawing of their family. Amara held her close, promising no one would take him away, but her heart quaked, the weight of judgment threatening to crush the hope she'd begun to nurture. The park's warmth now a distant memory. David felt the sting of Amara's distance. His own doubts mirrored in the article's accusations, the whispers that followed him at community events, the cold stares of former allies. He sought counsel from Mrs. Castellano, whose recovery had made her a fierce advocate for their love. Her hospital days a distant memory. In her sunlit apartment, surrounded by Maya's drawings and the scent of fresh coffee, she urged him to persist, to show Amara that trust was built through steadfastness, not grand gestures, that love was a choice made daily against the world's noise. Her words, laced with the wisdom of a life nearly lost, steadied him, a reminder of the night Amara's courage had saved her, a spark that could guide them now. He drove to Amara's apartment, the city's lights blurring through a summer rain, his heart racing with the need to reach her, to rebuild what doubt had shaken, standing in her doorway. Rain dripping from his coat, David shared his fears of failing her, of not being enough for the life they wanted, of losing the purpose she'd awakened in him. His honesty, raw and unguarded, pierced Amara's defenses, her eyes glistening as she listened, her arms uncrossing. She spoke of her own fears, her past, her responsibility to Maya, the world that judged her every step, the article's venom a mirror to the whispers she'd faced all her life. The rain pattered against the window, a soft counterpoint to their words, their vulnerabilities laid bare in the dim glow of her living room. Their hands found each other, fingers lacing tightly, a silent vow to face the storms together, to choose trust over fear, love over doubt. Maya, peeking from her room, saw their embrace and smiled, her worry easing, her small heart trusting the family they'd built. Amara felt the weight of her mother's warnings, the article's cruelty, but David's presence, his willingness to stand with her against the world, was a lifeline. He spoke of their nonprofit, the children they'd helped, the legacy they were building, and she saw their love as more than a risk, a strength, a partnership that could withstand the storm. The article's venom faded in that moment, their trust rebuilt not by erasing doubt, but by choosing to stand through it, their bond a quiet strength against a world that sought to tear them apart. As the rain slowed, they sat together, Maya joining them, her drawing in hand, their family a beacon of hope in the fading storm, a promise that love, when chosen bravely, could weather any challenge, could bridge any divide. Fall painted the city in gold and crimson, a canvas of change that mirrored the growth of David and Amara's shared vision, their love a foundation for something greater. The nonprofit expanded, opening a community library where Amara volunteered, reading to children with the same passion she brought to her night classes, her voice weaving stories that sparked their imaginations. Her teaching dreams took shape. Each lesson planned a step toward a future she'd once thought lost, her confidence blooming like the autumn leaves outside, her dark eyes bright with purpose. David, mentoring youth in the library's cozy corners, found joy in their stories. Teens like the shy poet Amara had encouraged, whose words now filled notebooks, their dreams a mirror to his own rediscovered heart. At 34, he'd traded wealth's glitter for impact's warmth, his purpose no longer measured in stock portfolios but in the lives they touched, a legacy inspired by Amara's courage at the fountain, her resilience a spark that lit their path. But challenges persisted. The world's judgment unwilling to let their love grow unchallenged. Victoria's allies, wielding influence in the city's power circles, pushed for a non-profit audit, hoping to discredit David's work, to prove his shift from tech mogul to dreamer was a failure. The scrutiny was relentless, board meetings filled with pointed questions, financial records dissected under cold fluorescent lights, the air thick with doubt. David felt the weight of their skepticism, his former life's allies now adversaries, their voices echoing Victoria's threats of ruin. Amara faced her own battle when a scholarship interviewer questioned her fit for teaching, her background as a single mother a subtle mark against her, her race an unspoken barrier in the polished office where dreams were judged. The bias stung, echoing the whispers she'd heard all her life. At the laundromat, the school pickup, the fundraiser where eyes followed her, her audacity to rise a challenge to their ordered eye in the library. They found refuge, its shelves filled with stories of triumph, its quiet corners a sanctuary from the world's noise. Amara helped David prepare for the audit, her practicality grounding his passion, her notes meticulous as they pored over budgets by lamplight, the scent of old books mingling with their determination. David, in turn, wrote a letter to the scholarship board, his words fierce and eloquent, championing Amara's worth, her courage, her heart that had saved his mother and inspired their work. Their partnership, tested by external pressures, grew stronger, each challenge a thread weaving their lives closer, their love a strength that turned obstacles into opportunities. The library's children, their laughter echoing, were a reminder of why they fought, not just for themselves, but for every child who dared to dream beyond their world's limits. As fall deepened, the audit loomed, but their resolve held firm. Amara's scholarship interview, though fraught, left her standing taller, her voice steady as she spoke of her journey, her dream to teach rooted in her love for Maya, her community, her partnership with David. David, facing the board, spoke, not of numbers, but of impact, the poet's newfound voice, the scholarship's changing lives, the library a beacon of hope. Their work, their love, was a legacy that no audit could discredit, a testament to the courage that had brought them together. The library's glow, its shelves a tapestry of stories, mirrored their own, a journey of resilience, a bridge across divides, a promise that love could build something enduring, a legacy that would outlast the world's judgment. Carried forward by the children they inspired, the community they uplifted, the love they chose daily against all odds. Winter settled over the city, its chill a mirror to the trials David and Amara faced, the snow blanketing the streets a quiet contrast to the storms within. The nonprofit audit cleared their work, its mission proven sound, the board's skepticism silenced by the undeniable impact of their scholarships, their library, their mentorship. But the scrutiny left scars, whispers in boardrooms, doubts in David's mind about his ability to lead this new life, the fear that his shift from tech mogul to dreamer might falter under pressure. Amara's scholarship was granted, a hard one, victory that brought tears of pride to her eyes. But her mother's caution lingered, spoken over coffee in Amara's small kitchen. Mrs. Johnson urged her to shield Maya from a world that might never accept their blended family, her voice heavy with the pain of her own unfulfilled dreams, a warning that love across divides came at a cost. That heartbreak loomed for women like them. David, too, grappled with his privilege, confronting moments he'd overlooked, the subtle slights Amara endured at community events, the glances that marked her as other when they walked together, the whispers that followed her at the library, the fundraiser, the school pickup. He saw now the weight she carried, the courage it took to stand in his world, to love him despite the barriers of race and class that society wielded against her. His heart ached with the realization that loving her meant more than choice. It meant seeing her truth, her struggles, and standing with her against them, even when it meant facing his own blind spots, his own failures to understand. One snowy evening, they walked through the park, Maya skipping ahead, her boots crunching. In the fresh snow, her laughter a bright thread in the winter's hush. Under the bare branches, they spoke of their fears. Amara's struggle to trust fully, her heart scarred by Marcus's betrayal, her parents' disapproval, the article's venom that still stung, David's fear of failing her, of not understanding, the weight she carried, of losing the purpose she'd awakened in him. Their honesty was painful, a mirror held to their vulnerabilities, stripping away the last barriers between them, their words mingling with their breath in the cold air. Amara admitted her fear of dreaming too big, of believing in a family that the world might reject. David confessed his guilt, his privilege a lens he was learning to see through, his commitment to her a daily act of learning, of growth. By the frozen fountain where their story began, they stood close, its gentle ripples. Now ice, a reminder of Amara's courage, David's awakening, their shared leap of faith. They vowed to let love, not fear, define them, to face the mirror of their truths and choose each other daily, against the world's judgment. Maya's laughter, echoing through the snow, reminded them of their purpose, her joy a beacon that guided them home. In their small living room, warmed by a flickering heater, they sat with Maya, her drawings spread before them, their hands clasped. The winter's chill outside no match for their bond. The world's judgment, once a heavy weight, felt lighter, their commitment a shield against doubt. Mrs. Johnson's warnings, though rooted in love, gave way to quiet pride as she saw Amara's strength, Maya's happiness. David's allies, some lost to Victoria's influence, were replaced by community leaders who saw their work's impact, their love's truth. Their partnership, tested by fire, was not just a feeling but a choice, a daily act of courage that redefined their path, a mirror that showed not just their flaws but their strength, their love a bridge across divides that promised to endure, to reshape their world, to carry them forward together. Spring returned, its vibrancy a promise kept. The city blooming with the same hope that filled David and Amara's home, a modest sanctuary alive with love and laughter. Maya's drawings covered the walls, a gallery of their journey. David teaching her to ride a bike, Mrs. Castellano reading bedtime stories, Amara studying late into the night, her teaching dreams now a reality. The nonprofit thrived, its community center and library a haven for those society overlooked, its walls echoing with the laughter of children, the dreams of teens, the gratitude of parents. Amara, now a teacher's aide, inspired her students with the courage she'd found within herself, her lessons infused with the resilience that had carried her through years of struggle, her voice steady as she shared stories of triumph, her dark eyes bright with purpose. David, mentoring beside her, found joy in their aspirations, his purpose no longer tied to wealth but to impact, his heart full as he saw the poet's words published, the scholarship recipients thriving, the community stronger for their work. Their home was a testament to their choice, a bridge across the divides of class and race that had once seemed insurmountable. Maya, at 6, was their heart's center, her laughter a melody that bound their unconventional family, her sketches a chronicle of their love, David's steady presence, Mrs. Castellano's gentle warmth, Amara's quiet strength. She called Mrs. Castellano Grandma, her voice bright with love, her joy a glue that held them together through every trial. Mrs. Castellano, her health restored, filled their home with laughter, her pearls a quiet symbol of the night she nearly lost, her gratitude for Amara a constant thread, her pride in David a blessing for the life he'd chosen, a legacy of honesty and love. Mrs. Johnson, once skeptical, joined their Sunday dinners, her heart softened by Maya's joy, Amara's strength, David's commitment. She saw in him not a prince, but a man who chose her daughter against the world's tide. His nonprofit a mirror to the dreams she'd once held, her warnings giving way to quiet pride. Victoria's whispers, once venomous, faded into irrelevance. Her influence no match for the truth of their bond. Her allies audit a failed attempt to dim their light. The community watched, some with lingering judgment, others with growing hope, inspired by a love that defied class, race, and expectation, a story that rippled through the center, the library, the park where it all began at a spring festival. In the park, Maya danced with Mrs. Castellano, her grandma, her dandelion crown tilting, her laughter bright. David and Amara stood close, their hands entwined, their eyes reflecting a journey hard won. Amara's courage at the fountain, David's awakening, their shared leap of faith through storms of doubt, judgment, and fear. They paused by the fountain, its gentle ripples a reminder of the night that changed everything, a moment of crisis that sparked a connection, a courage that grew into a legacy. Their love, born in heroism, had redefined family, not by society's rules, but by the choice to see each other's truth, to stand together against the world's noise. As the sun set, casting golden light across the park, Maya ran to them, her arms wide, her joy a beacon that lit their path. Mrs. Castellano smiled, her hand on Maya's shoulder, Mrs. Johnson nearby, their family a tapestry of resilience, love, and choice. David and Amara exchanged a glance, their hearts full, their love a hard-won victory over every divide, a promise that courage could conquer all, a legacy that would ripple forward, carried by the family they'd built, the community they'd uplifted, the love they'd chosen daily against all odds, a story that proved love, when brave and true, could reshape the world. My wonderful, soulful family. I'm sitting here with tears of gratitude in my eyes, so thankful for every single one of you who stayed with me until the final heartbeat of this tale. You're the very essence of Mr. Paul. Stories, sharing every laugh, tear, and moment of magic. Oh, what a blessing you are. Your love lights up my heart like a warm sunset glow. May a wave of blessings wash over you for being part of this journey. Until our next story, keep shining. My precious friends, I'm endlessly grateful for you.